What up, baby? Welcome back to Lockdown Universe, home of the bizarre, peculiar, and unheard of stories of UFO legend and paranormal lore. Welcome back, welcome back. Happy to be back. Hopefully, you guys are doing excellent and taking care of yourselves. I love you. I gotta say, it's a beautiful day to be alive. Beautiful day to listen to some AC/DC. You ever heard the song Jailbreak? It's an old one, man. It's dope. And they're having so much fun with it. Yeah. Jailbreak. Anyway. Jailbreak, yeah. Anywho, welcome back. So what are we talking about today? We're going to talk about some crazy shizzle, my bizzles. We're going to talk about good stuff, bad stuff, and everything in between. Not threatening, don't mess with a reptilian. This article states, if you're going to mess with a reptilian, you better think twice. So, that's this one. Taunt reptilians at your own risk, actually, is the title. It comes off of phantomsmonsters.com. So this one's really good. This individual wrote in to the website, and he states, on 8/24/13, I appeared on the Daniel Ott radio show, and I discussed the history of my reptilian abductions. And this is where it gets really weird, because a reptilian actually gets on the line, man. It's freaking crazy, right? I mean, you can take it for what it's worth. You don't have to believe me. But anyway, he states that he was discussing his reptilian abductions along with experiences of others involved in my mass abduction of 2005. So he says, in the last 10 minutes of the show, the host cracked a joke about offing some reptilians, okay? And what can only be described as an inhuman growl jumped into our conversation immediately after. Apparently, whatever reptilian was on the line wanted to voice their displeasure with his joke. During this conversation, I was sitting inside a parked car with the engine off. I was talking on my Skype app over my phone's 4G connection. There was no other radio or computer anywhere near me. I can't think of anything that could have produced a growling noise that vivid. That certainly didn't sound like line interference. There are no audio files or ringtones on my Samsung S3 that sound like that. There was a deep guttural quality to it, which made it similar to what I've heard from reptilians before. So this guy's clearly heard what they sound like before. And Mr. Ott does not have a history of pranking people on his program. See, that's what I thought originally. I was like, when I read this article, I was like, oh, he's probably just pranking this guy. And he's got somebody in the background with, like, some voice box or something. But he said that this guy does not, Mr. Ott, I haven't heard his show before, but Daniel Ott radio show is the radio show he was on August 24th, 2013. And he states, there's no possible explanation for the generation of the noise on my end. The growl sounds quite similar to some of the ones I've heard in recordings made during the reptilian encounters of David Eckhart's household. So there's been a bunch of encounters that happened at David Eckhart's household with in regards to reptilians that he'll talk about a little bit here. He says they too have that deep, gurgling, almost emotive quality to them. The last time I spoke to David, he related an interesting anecdote about about reptilians and telephones. This is weird. He says this was during a fully conscious encounter where a couple of reptilians surrounded him while he was working on some business paperwork at a desk in his home. A reptilian examined his new smartphone and said something to the effect of, we can break into this one too, right? ? Apparently, they thought he had tried to replace his phone to circumvent their hacking attempts. You gotta wonder, why the hell would they need to physically hack one? They can just hack any radio signal. But the S3 was different. It had some different features on it. I remember that. I was doing some sales back then, and it had some different features to it. I think it was like the first Samsung with Bluetooth, some other stuff on it. Apparently, they thought they had replaced phones to try to circumvent their hacking attempts. The truth was, he just upgraded his phone. Mr. Eckhart also saw a female reptilian quickly disassemble and reassemble their home phone handset. Oh, and I'm sorry, when I say the S3, the author or the person that was being interviewed, that was his phone. I don't know what David Eckhart's phone was. It could have been an older version or whatever the case was. So I don't know. Maybe there's something different from the one he upgraded from the one he previously had. But what they did this time was that they had a female reptilian quickly disassemble and reassemble their home phone handset as well. During the process, she inserted a small device into the phone. The speed with which and the skill with which she did so suggests that she was experienced with wiretapping. I have had numerous phone hacking incidents that he's discussed. So you know what's kind of interesting here is that typically it's like the government trying to hack your phone, and they kind of just do it from the other side. They used to need bugs back when everybody had home phones and stuff like that, but now that everybody's got cell phones, they can just listen to you. It doesn't matter. So everybody knows that. So it's interesting that they would be utilizing, a tapping device, and it almost makes you wonder, like, if Eckhart was engaging with so many reptilians in his house that were interested in phone tapping. I mean, I don't understand why a reptilian would need to tap a phone. They have telepathic communication capability. They can read your mind from distance. I mean, they don't have to tap a phone. It almost makes me think that this is a psyop, that this is a run by the government thing. And they're showing up as reptilians at this guy's house, and they want him to tell his story so that everybody believes that, this is the kind of shit that's going on, that it's reptilians doing this. I mean, I'm not saying the reptilians are good guys, and we have to, say good and nice things about them, but I don't really understand why the reptilians would do that. But he goes on to talk about kind of like reptilian hierarchy and sociology here, and he says, being something of a feudalistic warrior culture, the reptilians have an acute sensitivity to perceived insults and threats, so you don't want to threaten them. As many reptilian abductees have discovered, they can disproportionately react when verbally antagonized. This is particularly true if the origin of the threatening gesture or statement comes from a male human. Okay. The best policy for interacting with reptilians is to use the same practice you would use in speaking to a known 1% biker club member who is wearing his logo. You have virtually no margin for error and no margin of safety to disrespect them. Now, this does not seem to apply to the reptilians who are acting in a scientific role. He says they do not tend to overreact to perceived insults. However, the majority of the encountered reptilians fall into some spectrum of what I would call the warrior culture. And this has been noted and justified and verified by numerous abductees, numerous people who've worked with them in the government, is that they come from a warrior culture. They come from a culture that just it's fight first and everything else comes after that. Kind of like the movie 300, right, with the Spartans. They say it's better to have a warrior that can make art than an artist that can become a warrior, because the warrior will always be a warrior first, right? So that's their culture, and that's what we've known for decades. The majority fall into a warrior culture. So the outburst on the line that he was talking about certainly sounded emotionally driven. It occurred less than 1 second after Daniel Ott's joke. So that's my thing. It's like, if Daniel Ott had been like a Mancow Muller in Chicago, or like a Howard Stern in New York, or like a Big Boy in LA or something like that. Those guys are known for like pranks and jokes and stuff like that, but not this Daniel Ott. Apparently, the reptilians have a fundamentally different neurological composition, which lets them react faster than a human would. Yeah, if they're bigger and stronger than us, sure. So I found that particular story really interesting. There's probably a lot more to it than that. He covered. He actually has another article here. I just want to quickly glance at it. He mentions something really interesting in the second article about the warrior nature of these reptilians, the warrior culture, that seem to operate in a different level than what modern humans are accustomed to. It's almost like something out of the Middle Ages or even the Bronze Age warrior societies. This is highlighted in instances where reptilians have engaged in biting behavior. This happened to another abductee at the 2005 mall abduction event and also at my 2003 abduction. And he discusses this with his other abductee. The reptilians have enough jaw control to cause severe bruising with nips without breaking the skin. This sort of behavior is also seen in Earth canines, where they're able to nip with just enough force to assert dominance without drawing blood. They do this with other animals and smaller wolves or smaller dogs. Larger dogs will do that. And that's how they do training, actually, as well. Do a little bit of dog training, and they train you where you kind of mimic what a larger dog would do. It'd be like if they're out of control, you kind of just hold the back of their neck, and it pretends like it's a larger dog holding them. They think it's a larger dog holding them. So it's kind of interesting. But he says they do this with just enough with dominance to not draw blood. Admittedly, it is extremely intimidating to see. They lunge very quickly and accurately. I can see how it may be useful in intimidations of unruly crowds. It certainly is a deterrent against trying to tackle or wrestle them, as I learned the hard way in my 2003 initiation. I'd rather be struck by a baton than be slammed by another bite like that. It was like diving into a shallow lake and landing on your collarbone on a rock. Ouch. He says that these reptilians are also pretty prevalent in the larger space stations that are circling the Earth, whether they're a multi-species space station or their own space stations. These have been verified by Joseph McMoneagle, one of the very first, actually the first remote viewer number 001 for the U.S. government, stated he also saw reptilians inside of space stations circling the Earth. And when he went there, he bilocated and went into these bases, and they stopped whatever they were doing. Like if they were walking, they immediately stopped because they knew he was there, even though he was in an ethereal body. That's how good these guys are. That's how intelligent they are. They're very sensitive to threats. But this writer states that they are typically they can be used for security forces in a security role aboard large multi-species space stations, but they have an extreme and somewhat anachronistic militarism in their armor and equipment. They have 3-inch diameter clubs, nearly full suits of armor, and this was a relatively quiet facility, mostly filled with grazing humanoids. This reminds me of the reptilians that used those laser backpacks in herding of humans in a simulated 2005 mall riot. I gotta find that article because I've never heard of that before. The noise and sparks and shrapnel were a step up over rubber bullets and tear gas. So I'm gonna go try to find that 2005 article because that sounds awesome. I have not heard that one. So I'm going to go check that out. But, do you think that he actually was being listened to? Do you think that the reptilians are like listening to phone calls? Listening to people, potentially threatening them or threatening any of their people on a, internet podcast, radio show? I don't know. I wouldn't think so. But hell, I don't know everything, so I'm not going to say it didn't happen. And there's lots of things that happen that I don't see. I'm only one person. So who am I to say it didn't happen? But I did want to report it because I thought it was kind of interesting because there's lots of people that feel like they're being spied on. And there's this thing called like gang stalking too, that people feel like they're being like stalked by groups of people that might work for the government for some reason or another. A lot of people that think, if they're reporting on UFOs or aliens or anything like that, to start getting quote unquote gang stalked by people who are watching them. It's really bizarre stuff. It's really interesting, but I'm not going to get into that. I wanna bring up another really interesting story in this next podcast. So I'm gonna get working on that. But just something to chew on, think about. Anyway, take care of yourselves, man. Don't threaten a reptilian, unless you got some empaths and government agents that know how to combat these things. You might need an exorcist and a priest and a rabbi and a whole bunch of other entities to try to combat one of these things. So take care of yourselves. Don't use Ouija boards. Don't do stupid stuff. Don't try to bring some evil stuff into your life. Keep positive. Pray positive stuff in your life. Meditate on positive stuff in your life. And take care of your physical, spiritual, and emotional health. Follow through on your hobbies and your goals and your dreams. That's what's going to make you happy. That's what's going to make life good. And I want your life to be good, because it's too damn short to not be good. So go take care of yourselves. Enjoy your life. And don't taunt the reptilians. Until next time, guys, take care. And go like, follow, share, subscribe, and Lockdown Universe out. Peace.